greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, and that'll be in the show notes. All right, let's get back to getting really good podcast guests. Here's a really good one that can really help build your show. You approach other podcast hosts and trade appearances with them. Now, this has to make sense for both of you. For instance, another podcast host might want to be on my show about entrepreneurship, but I may not want to be on their show, let's say, about reading people's auras or something like that. I mean, I don't relate to that topic and have nothing to say about it. I mean, it would be foolish and really bad for my reputation to be on such a show because I don't know anything about the topic, so it wouldn't make sense for me to be a guest. So you can't be so desperate that you either book guests that don't make sense for your show or you don't make sense for their show. Now, it doesn't mean I wouldn't have that podcast host on my show if they were a good guest and they could talk about making a living, about spiritual stuff. All right, see, that would be entrepreneurial, makes sense for my show. That's fine. It just wouldn't make sense for me to be on their show. Now, any trading appearances can be a great way to build your show because you're being exposed to a whole audience of people that never heard of you. Okay, the next way to get guests is to listen to other podcasts and hear their guests. Now, you can immediately determine if their topic is right for you and if they're a good sounding guest. And you also know they do podcasts because you're hearing them on one. And the last way you'll get guests is that as your show grows, people will start calling you, telling you about guests that they heard or would be good for your show. And then you can go check them out. And remember those podcast booking services I mentioned earlier? Once they get hold of you, they'll be pushing their clients to you all the time. But make sure you listen to their other podcasts before you say yes to a guest, because the guest might just be rich enough to hire these agencies and they might not really be that great of a guest.